Pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose.
How you doing this morning, Jared?
I'm feeling good, man. The sun is shining. The birds are chirping. I'm still in quarantine. But other than that, I feel good, man.
Good, man.
Yeah, I'm enjoying, quite honestly, I'm enjoying having everybody kind of focused on just being at home because it's super easy for us to crush a bunch of episodes of this podcast, which I really enjoy. And it really, man, it just puts my day in a better spot for sure.
Oh, I love doing it, man. I love hearing the stories of all the different guests we've had, and I really love hearing from our community. It just brightens my day so much when we get a submission and someone can apply some of what we're talking about to their life. It's just it fuels me.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And, we're still getting messages about the episode with Zach Mercurio, and people are telling us they had to listen to it 2 and 3 times and take notes on it.
That one was so good.
We might have to bring him back.
Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah. So, what'd you think of Miss Shelley Davies, our first international guest coming to us all the way from New Zealand?
Dude, I thought she was awesome. And I definitely took a few things away from her episode. I think a couple of the biggest takeaways was that we're constantly students of ourselves, right? We constantly have to be looking deep and finding out who we are, like from her, with her story being this goody girl who she said she never cursed, right, until she was like 38 years old, so involved in her church and so religious, and now she's got the short haircut, dropping her face tat, dropping F-bombs, and it was just a really good reminder that personal history weighs so little. It actually doesn't have to do anything with the person we are today. We control all of that, and we can be whoever we want. And it's important to continue to learn and know thyself in every facet of life. And then, of course, the love yourself piece. I really enjoyed that. What did you take from it?
I agree with that. I think that was super fascinating about how she's really getting comfortable with who she is and being comfortable being different from everybody else. Like she's not trying to fit in anymore, not trying to be just part of the norm. The other thing I took is she said that, are you hearing that like fuzz noise?
No.
Okay, must just be in my ears. I don't know what that is.
Gotta clean your ears, man.
No, it's like a But the other thing she said that really struck me is she went through a divorce, met her new guy, and decided that like it was unfair to put all of her relationship needs on him, which I think a lot of people do, right? Like we find this person and like they're going to make me happy, they're going to make me healthy, they're going to motivate, right? We put all this, and she knew she was dealing with stuff inside it, baggage, if you would, that she was bringing from other relationships there, and this person was supposed to fix them. And when she said like it's unfair to expect that of another person,
right?
And then she tied it back to that's when she had to start looking at herself and what does she need, and she talked a lot about her needing counseling, which was the avenue she chose. But that really hit me because how many people look to somebody else to fulfill these needs, to fulfill these voids, instead of stepping into them themselves. And I think it ties back to, if you don't know yourself, it's hard to fix things.
Right. And that may be a big part of the reason why marriages today are 50-50. Half of them end up in divorce, and I think it's because we have this idea sometimes that, oh, that's my partner, so you're supposed to love me, motivate me, inspire me, all these things, to where no, we have to seek things out. And I like how she said that therapy can be beneficial for everyone, right? It's not necessarily that someone may need it, but it can be beneficial. And I totally agree. Talking things out. I mean, this is a form of therapy for me, man. Getting on here every week and talking things out. It really helps me navigate emotions, ideas, thoughts, And I definitely know having the privilege to get on this every week with you and speak about topics is developing me each and every single week.
No, I 100% agree. Well, I'm excited this week. We got a guest with probably the coolest name we've had so far. Not that Shelly Davis was an uncool name.
But I mean, it's hard to compete with Scott Savage.
Dude, you have to go to your wrestling voice when you say that, huh?
Dude, I have to. He reminds me of Macho Man Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah.
Good, man. You ready to bring him on then?
Let's get it, man. I'm excited.
Let's do it.
Hello, On Purpose community. Today we have a very special guest who I'm very excited about. One, because I love his last name. Mr. Scott Savage is here with us today. Scott is a 20-year law enforcement officer in California, and his background includes assignment to SWAT, a crisis negotiation team, full-time assignment to a terrorism intelligence task force in the San Francisco Bay Area, and actually his favorite assignment was being a sergeant in the Uniform Patrol Division, where he had the opportunity to lead other officers. He's a longtime instructor and founder of the Savage Training Group, which if you haven't seen their hoodies, you got to check them out. They're pretty awesome. And he's also a law enforcement training organization, which is a law enforcement training organization dedicated to helping officers advance their careers, become experts, and save lives. And he's also a loving husband. So please help me welcome Mr. Scott Savage. How you doing today, Scott?
Oh man, I'm doing amazing. Can you read that for me every morning I wake up? The way you said that was so inspiring. I'm like ready to conquer the world right now, man. That sounded cool. I like the way you say my name. Can you just like follow me around as like a hype man or something like that?
Dude, I love saying your name. The double S. I'm a double A. So
yeah, you are.
I love the double. And then, I mean, how much cooler can it get when your last name is Savage? Like, you just got to be a badass.
Thanks, man. I'll try. Thanks for having me, guys, man. This is amazing. People always say, oh, it's an honor to do this, honor to do that. But it truly is. I listen to you guys' podcast. I love how it's full of positivity, especially during kind of the stuff we're going through right now. It's nice to kind of just listen to two guys that I think are real genuine and passionate. And I also want to pay you a compliment is that I think you guys really listen to your guests, which is not always the case. I've been on podcasts before where I don't know, they're just maybe not the best listeners. So you guys are really good at kind of like keying on what people are saying. So kudos to you guys.
Man, we appreciate you being here, and it's our honor to be able to share your story with our amazing community, especially in a time like this. People need positivity. They need to know that other people are going through adversity out there, and that, like we talked a little bit off air, we're all going to come out of this, and it's what we do right now that kind of decides how we come out of this. Better than we went in, or do we come out the same, or have we gotten worse? So at least in our community, we're going to challenge people to get better right now. This is a great time to dive into yourself and really do the things that you've always wanted to do, but you didn't have time for.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. It's hard to do, like Ollie mentioned, I own a law enforcement training company, and our business model is getting in front of a crowd and teaching things. And now they said, well, you can't do that. And we went, oh, okay, that makes it a little tough to do what we do. And it is, of course, an opportunity, but, just to confront the reality of it, it stinks. It's hard.
Yeah.
This sucks, And so I think it's important, like you all have mentioned on some of your podcasts before, to, be honest with yourself and kind of confront you want to feel sorry for yourself for a few hours or a day. That's okay. And just be like, man, this totally stinks. And then the next day, just be like, all right, what can I do differently now? And if you hang around sharp people, like I think you guys would agree, there's a lot of smart people in the world, and you can kind of see what they're doing and try to come up with some ideas yourself. It is an opportunity, man. If you wanted to write a book or you want to just work on some things, I got a lot of stuff done around the house. I'll tell you that. The honey-do list is gone, so this is going amazing. But it is an opportunity, right? And what I'm doing is trying things. And I'll tell you right now, not all of them are going to work. We're doing some like webinars, and we're doing some online stuff. I think some will work, some won't work, but this is the time, I guess, to just, let's throw some stuff against the wall. Let's see what sticks. Let's see what's going to work. I know you guys are business owners, and I'm sure you're going through kind of the same stuff right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've talked about this. All these businesses online shipping, so he's still able to do some stuff, but obviously it's scaled back. Mine are just
no
like yours.
wholesale at all.
Yeah, no wholesale for Ali. Mine are just like yours. I require people in my presence and large groups to better, so I'm completely shut down. But like you said, it's important to run the emotions. Like I posted a video last night, or well, by the time this airs, it was a month ago probably, of just the gym and the emotions of having people that want to pay for something that they can't come use, and how you feel guilty for it, but you also, it's important to keep the doors open, right? Because we literally on March 16th, I had such and such a amount of money that came in every month on memberships, and on March 17th it was zero because we're completely closed. And it's okay. Like, I'm sad. I get emotional talking about that because I know families are counting on it. They come there for support. They come there for community. They come to fight against Parkinson's, and I can't provide it. But it doesn't do anybody any good if we're always stoic and we're like, this doesn't bother us, right? Because that's not true. It bothers all of us. And I think it's important when you're going to lead at times like this that you lead through all the emotions, not just the ones that are easiest.
Yeah, one challenge that I've, just to kind of like back you up on what you're saying there, one challenge that I have found is trying to sort of stay true to kind of the vision, or why I started the business, or what I like about doing, staying really focused and true to that, and also pivoting in this new time. That kind of makes sense. In other words, like, I wouldn't want to take this business. You're right. We have hoodies. We make hoodies. We give them away. I wouldn't want to take this business and be like, oh, actually now we're just a hoodie company, and or whatever. Actually, we sell pies now. Something off the wall. So it's staying true to, like, hey man, I'm a law enforcement training company. We have law enforcement officers teaching other law enforcement officers. That's our thing. And also, though, pivoting into this new way of doing stuff for the next few months or year or however long this is going to be. So is I think a little bit of a balancing act for me, and I don't know what the answer is. Love to hear it if you know. But for me, it's just kind of, okay, remember why you started this thing. What are the core values? There's a lot of extra stuff that we do, but what was the inspiration to do this? What's the thing that gets you up in the morning? Mm-hmm. Can you stay true to that while just pivoting the way, or like the how you do stuff? So that's something, as an entrepreneur, that going through this crazy coronavirus thing that I certainly struggle with.
Yeah, I definitely understand and can relate to that. And speaking of staying true, Scott, we jumped a little ahead, and we got to stay true to our little warm-up exercise here. I think your SWAT Savage techniques kind of skirtled around that. So let's have Jared kick us off with some warm-up questions, and then we can get even deeper with some of your purpose and some of your story, which I'm really excited to hear about. So, Jared, you got question number 1 for him?
Oh, I'm ready for this. You guys, the community just got a glimpse of how Mr. Savage does his day. From the minute his feet touch the ground, it's Savage full speed ahead. There's no warm up. There's no easing into the day. But we're going to slow you down, Scott. We got to slow you down, buddy. We got to warm you up. I can't have you pulling a hammy on the show.
Fair enough.
We're 100% injury free on this show.
Fair enough.
So far. Yeah, so far. All right, Scott Savage, you get one food for the rest of your life. What are you eating?
One food for the rest of my life. I would probably go something like a nutritious, like superfood, like like agave, the agave plant. But just to make it like easier to consume, I'd probably just convert it into tequila. So tequila, basically, I guess. Tequila.
Love
is
it.
The answer.
All right, agave plant or tequila, very unique. Love it. That's very Savage-like. All right, Scott. Second question: if you could be any superhero, made up or real / fictional, and have any superpower, who would you be and what would it be? You could be Batman with X-ray vision. You could call yourself Super Savage. Can be invisible. Anything you want.
Well, let's see. I'm deathly afraid of heights, so it wouldn't be anything that flies. So that takes them all away, doesn't it? Man, my super, like the guy that I look up to that I just think's like a superhero. This is going to sound odd, but I've been playing drums since I was in 8th grade, and I still play drums today. I'm a musician, and my superhero, was the drummer for Rush, a guy named Neil Peart, and he just passed away. And he was considered probably the kind of the best drummer out there. So if I could literally be one superhero, the flying thing is out, first of all, and then I think I'd be him for a day and just be like, that's what it's like to be that awesome at the instrument. So yeah, that's what I would vote.
Nice, man. I don't know what it was called, but there was a cartoon on, I believe it was Cartoon Network, and it was like this weird conglomeration of these characters. There was like this knockoff Hulk guy, and they had this guitar dude,
Nice.
and like
Yep.
this Van Halen type of dude, and he could play music and shoot these beams out of his
like it.
guitar. So
Yes.
maybe your drums have some power beams or something on there.
I'm in.
All right, I gotta know what Rush song are you listening to?
Every Rush song,
Tom
but my
Sawyer?
favorite's a song called "Time Stands Still." Time Stands Still, and I would encourage everyone to look up the lyrics for it, even if you don't like progressive rock music. Neil was a lyricist and a book writer. He wrote a lot of amazing books, but the lyrics to "Time Stands Still" talk about living in the moment. They talk about being appreciative of sort of what we have now. You know, we're always looking to the future, and we all have big plans and dreams, but don't forget, we're all getting older.
Yeah.
There's this line that says "old friends getting older" kind of thing in that song. So take a look around. Like sometimes, like this is as good as it gets, and that don't mean that in a defeatist way. I mean that as this is pretty awesome. You know, we got great lives. We've got family. We've got our businesses. We've got this amazing opportunity, like you talked about. So yeah, if you need a little bit of inspiration, look up those lyrics. That's amazing stuff. That's my favorite song
Favorite
of all
song?
time. So yeah,
I go
Nice.
Tom Sawyer with Rush. I love Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer is a great one. That's what everyone says, though. Come on,
that
I
is
gotta
true.
go.
I'm not
I gotta go
deep.
deep on
Although
you.
I
Yeah.
think the only other one that comes to mind is Limelight.
Limelight, great. Yeah, living in the limelight.
Yeah, that was. I remember my dad was a big Rush fan as a kid. He played Rush a lot for us.
Yes.
All right, what book are you currently reading, Scott?
You know, I just picked this one up. I don't know. It's
a shameless
you
plug.
know, it's a real page turner. You can't put it down.
I appreciate
You know what?
that.
Yeah, what book I just read was "Make It Stick" by Peter Brown and Company. And if you are a teacher or an instructor or any want to learn about learning, that's an amazing book. That talks about all the ways learning actually occurs. Talks about things like desirable difficulties. You know, in other words, sometimes we think that, well, I suppose using Jared as an example, if you got somebody in the mat room and you taught them some jujitsu move and said, okay, just do this, then this, then this, then this, you know, step by step by step by step, and you put somebody in front of them that didn't resist, just went with the program, they did it. They nailed it, and they're going to walk away going, hey, I'm awesome at jujitsu, right? But there's no desirable difficulties there. There's no struggle to learn. They didn't learn any contextually. They don't know how to do it in a real fight. And the minute they go out and experience in the real world, they fail. They might also forget it because you just told them what to do. You said, do A, then B, then C, then D. And they went, okay, I'll do that. But in Make It Stick, and they're talking about these advanced learning concepts, they say there's actually ways to do spaced retrieval, desirable difficulties, interleaving, it's called, of subjects, to actually make things stick to where they can recall things in long-term memory. And in the training world, that's what we're trying to do here, not just put on a class and be like, here's a PowerPoint, here's a talking head instructor, maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't. We actually want to make it stick, make people be able to remember these things later, because in police work, that's huge, right? They're going to go out and make really, really difficult decisions in tense and uncertain circumstances. We need you to be able to recall this stuff, not just, well, I don't really remember what they said. So yeah, check out Make It Stick. Peter Brown, I think, is an author, and then there's a couple more there, but that's great.
That's good. And that's for our community. That's how Scott and I actually met, is on LinkedIn, because we were both promoting really progressive law enforcement training to kind of challenge the status quo. And that was a huge thing we had. We agreed. We didn't want to continue down the path of this false hope, this false confidence, because quite honestly, a lot of law enforcement training is just as you described. They go in, they train with a willing partner who puts up no resistance because they don't want to get hurt. And then they
Right.
both leave thinking they have these great skills. And the first time it doesn't work on the street, they come running back. And we got to do better by that, right? And that's a big part of your purpose, and certainly mine, is making cops better at being cops.
Amen. Yeah, a lot of the training that's out there, I think people would be surprised, if they really saw how police officers are trained. I think sort of the general public would be shocked.
Yep.
In other words, you see these videos and there's a crazy guy running down the street and it takes 25 cops to get the guy subdued, and then people are going, that's wrong. Why don't they just ninja chop him and do this and do that? And of course, the whole shoot the gun out of the hand theory. Um, but if you saw the general way police officers are trained, I don't think you'd be impressed. I don't think you'd find it impressive. And I had a defensive tactics or an arrest control instructor say something really smart to me one time. He said, if the way that police officer defensive tactics, if the way they were trained was so great, all the guys from the MMA world would be begging, please, police officers, let us learn your ways. Invite us into your classes and let us learn your secret ways. That doesn't happen. I mean, you guys know you're both fighters. You, at no time did you be like, I just got to learn what these cops are doing. It's just the greatest thing ever. No, BS. It's the opposite, really. The cops, the smart ones, are going, I'm going to get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm going to go learn, get some additional training away from the department.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's so great that we have guys like you guys that are out there training to improve our police forces all around the nation. So definitely some gratitude around that. I'm gonna have to check out that book, Make It Stick. I really love the concept that everybody learns in a different way.
There you go.
Nice. The
Yep.
science of successful learning. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes, I think it's Albert Einstein maybe who said it, of if you judge a goldfish by his ability to climb a tree, he's going to think he's stupid for the rest of his life, right? So it is important to see how people learn and to try apply different techniques as well. And I also wanted to mention too, real quick, for our listeners who are just listening on audio, Scott actually picked up Jared's book when he said, I'm actually reading this one, Extraordinary People in Ordinary Places. So I'm starting to think maybe Jared is planting these with our guests, because it's not the first time it's happened. That's funny.
Yeah, you got to cross market where you can, my friend.
No, it is truly a terrific book. Well, Scott, I think you are warmed up and ready to get into Savage mode and get deep here. So I know that you've had a fantastic career. I mean, from SWAT to terrorism, intelligence negotiation. I mean, you were totally qualified to be training our law enforcement officers all around the nation, all around the world. And so I'm sure that at different points in your career, you probably have a different purpose. But tell us right now, what is your current life's purpose?
I think my purpose now is to teach. I think it's to share sort of what I know, and the reason behind that is to try to keep cops safe. That's kind of what gets me up in the morning, is trying to prevent cops from getting injured, cops from getting killed, and in turn trying to help cops not have to use force and, God forbid, kill someone. That there was a way of avoiding that. And we all see the videos, we all see the statistics, and of course, if you're a police officer, you get these little notifications in social media like, oh, this officer just passed away, this officer was just killed, and this just happened. And it's a dreary thing, but that is what my purpose, I think, in life is. Life's purpose in there is to use the platform that I've created to try to help keep cops safe. And then, maybe second from that is just to help cops have great careers and to give them the kind of the best training, because I just am such a believer in training every day, trying to learn something. How are we getting better? So I think that's why I think that's my purpose on the earth right now.
Are you finding, I at least know for me, when I started, I was very much like you. Like, I was going to really focus on law enforcement, really make it better. Are you finding, though, that there is a lot of similarities in wanting to make police officers better and just making our communities better and our business owners better. And then the people that look to us, you can apply a lot of the same principles. Are you finding that as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think it's a byproduct of that. So, in other words, someone might send me an email and say, "Hey, can I ask you how you did this, or can I ask you how that worked, or can you take a look at this like I don't know piece of copy or whatever that I'm going to put on my website?" And I think then that's our opportunity to go, yeah, I'd love to help you as best I can. So I think the byproduct there of helping the rest of the community is if you have a successful business, if you're doing a good job, you're staying true to yourself, you're out there killing it and trying to do things well. I think the byproduct of that is that you get to help sort of anyone. Um, I get approached, you know, not infrequently from private industry wanting us to train like security guards or wanting us to do some like private kinds of things and the money is certainly there, right? Those private industry companies, especially out here in Silicon Valley where I am, I think have a little bit of money, but it's just not my. It's not really my
Yeah.
passion. Just to be true to myself, it's not really that doesn't turn my wheels. So um, it just wouldn't be a lot of fun. Wouldn't be something that I'm super interested in. So for me, it's just kind of staying really focused, really niche down, really true, and just serving kind of this one thing, and not trying to be everything to everyone. Like, hey, I'm a law enforcement trainer, and I'm a security trainer, and I also I bake pies, and I can change your oil as well. We'll do anything, whatever you want. It's sort of the opposite of that, just being like laser
Yep.
focused into this one thing and trying to do that like really, really well.
Very nice.
Yeah, definitely. So, Scott, right now your services are very needed, especially with cop culture, in the general media. Like you said, we see these viral videos of 10 cops taking down a person, and even in culture there's songs. We have "Fuck the Police" and all this stuff, to where cops get a bad rap, maybe because um the training isn't sufficient enough for them to be extremely effective. And where I'm getting at is that you really have to have a strong desire, a strong purpose, especially today, to get into law enforcement. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to go against sometimes what general culture and general media, especially today, um, really shines the light on. I think deep down we do appreciate our law enforcement, but it's a bad rap. So can you tell us a little bit about how you discovered your purpose, the when you knew at a young age of like, I want to be in law enforcement. This
Mm.
is for me.
Yeah, I got into law enforcement when I was, let's see, 23, 24, somewhere around there. And before that, I was a paramedic. Before that, I was an EMT. I became an emergency medical technician at like 19 years old because shortly before that, I had watched all the TV shows, Rescue 911, Emergency, whatever was out there. And I just thought being a paramedic was like the coolest thing since sliced bread. Is like everyone's freaking out, people are dying, and you just like walk in like all calm and don't worry, I'll save you, sort of thing. That seemed awesome
Yeah.
because growing up, I was never in organized sports. I was never in any kind of limelight. I never felt that admiration, right? And in
Mhm.
looking back now as an older guy, I can go like, well, that's kind of what you were searching for. You want someone to be like, good job, you did well. And this feeling of just kind of looking up to people and being like, wow, that guy stays so calm, as everyone else is freaking out, and he knows what to do, and he's smart, and he knows the medications and all that kind of stuff. That's what appealed to me as being a young guy. So I went on and put myself through paramedic school. I sold my first drum set and used that money to help put myself into paramedic school. Huh. And it was great. It was awesome. Being a paramedic was the best thing ever, young guy out there, lights and sirens, literally making life and death decisions, literally, and it was awesome. But, staying up all night, not making a lot of money, dealing with in very like hard circumstances, it wasn't a long lasting career for me. So I started to look, how can I pivot into something else? And I wanted a job. I'm super selfish when it comes to my work. I wanted something that was fun, intellectually stimulating, physically challenging, noble, paid well, and got to work outside, and had to check all these boxes, and the logical thing for me was police officer, and there's a lot of similarities between being a cop and being a paramedic. It's a lot of talking to people. It's not all just action, 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 right? It's a lot of talking to people, dealing with very difficult circumstances, staying calm, figuring out what to do. And so it really appealed to me. And in the back of my mind had always been this police officer thing, but it was kind of a no-go zone in my own family and my own being, because my grandfather was a policeman. My dad's dad was a police officer. His name is Lemuel Savage, and if you look up Lemuel Savage, if you Google that, it only has one return on Google, and it's for the Officer Down Memorial page, which is a website that's maintained that has information about officers that were killed in the line of duty, because he, in fact, was. He was a detective in Amarillo, for Amarillo PD in 1945. And I grew up knowing that my grandfather was a policeman. And I also grew up knowing to never, ever speak about that in our household, because of the pain and it was a very much a taboo thing. Um, and I remember one day, gosh, I was a young guy. I was probably 10, 11, something like that. Like young guys do when they're bored at the house, I started searching through our garage, like through all these old boxes, just like excavating, like seeing what was in there. And I found an old box of what turned out to be my grandfather's effects, like a holster, a belt, some notebooks, old photos. And I found it was like a treasure. What is all this stuff? And I'm a young dude. I brought it into the kitchen, sat it on the kitchen table, and just started going through it. And I was just like, this is amazing. What is this? I saw my dad come around the corner, and my dad was the most mild mannered, reserved kind of guy ever. And I had never seen him just absolutely go beet red, anger, rage. And he
Wow.
grabbed the box from me and he said, don't you ever go through this stuff. And he went and took it somewhere, and I never knew for the next 30 years where he took that. But he was mad because that was off limits. Now later on, my dad isn't with us anymore. He passed away several years ago from cancer. But I asked him on his deathbed, where we sometimes get this information, tell me about your dad. What was that? What do you remember? And he said that he was 10 years old or something like that, and he was playing outside his house in Amarillo, and his dad walked out of the house and was wearing the old, detective's hat. I don't know what those are, those kind of like old school detective hat. And my dad asked him if he would fly a kite with him. And my granddad told him, well, I got to go to work, but I'll come back and do that with you after work. And my dad said he never came back,
Mm.
And so I think that the loss of my dad losing his dad scarred him. And I don't think he really ever recovered. And what actually happened, now looking back and gathering the research and figuring out what happened, is that 1945, it's March, my grandfather sees two burglary suspects who they had been looking for, who he didn't know at the time, but they had escaped out of a jail, and they were sort of like on the run. He sees them, he contacts them, he arrests them, he puts them in his police car, which, think about the 1940s, what kind of it didn't look anything like we drive now. There wasn't those shields that separates the prisoner compartment from the cops. And he's driving them a few blocks to the police station, and one of the guys pulls out a gun because, and here's the critical piece, my grandfather had missed a gun on him. Searched him, missed, made a mistake. Simple mistake, long-lasting consequences. He misses the gun. The bad guy pulls out the gun, shoots my grandfather a couple of times. Actually held the gun pointed towards him and said, just keep driving. And my grandfather attacked him, went for the gun and tried to get away from him. Boom, the gun goes off. Bad guys are getting shot by their own gun. They're shooting my grandfather a couple of times. They pushed him out onto the street. They took his car and went on a crime spree. and my grandfather kind of stumbled into an army, military police station that was there, and they saw him and went and got help. And unfortunately, he passed away a couple days later. But I tell you that story not to be, gosh, I really want to bring you guys down this morning. I tell you that story to tell you it has forever etched something in me and inspired me to want to prevent that from happening to your family,
Yeah.
prevent that from happening to any police officer's family again, because I know it's not just something I read about in a book. I know the kind of impact that will have on your family that you've never met. I
Yeah.
never met my grandfather, and it is as real to me today as it was in 1940. And that incident inspired me to try to train cops. And I had done it for years and years and years as I was a working policeman. And now, years later in 2020, I own my own, training company, and I help other cops train other cops. And it's what gets me up in the morning. And in the middle of this corona pandemic, where we're all having to pivot our businesses and are all facing financial challenges and whatnot, that's what keeps me inspired. I'm laser focused on, okay, why do you do this?
Yeah. I want to take you back, or I want to ask you to take
Mhm.
us back. So your dad was 10 years old, I believe,
Yep.
when this happened. Did he ever share with you what the rest of his childhood was like? And a follow up to that is how did it affect his parenting of you? And how did you see any parallels? A lot of times we see it in retrospect. Once we're through it and we look back, did you see any byproducts of this event affecting your childhood?
Yeah, I really did, because what I think it did to my dad is I think it stunted his growth emotionally. You know, I would have, if something like that were to occur today, gosh, we have so many services, counseling, and we would get the children into a lot of deep therapy. We'd rally around that family and have a lot of resources for them. I can't help but think, in 1940, we weren't as keen on PTSD and trauma informed care. We didn't have all that terminology back then. So I don't think he ever recovered from that. I don't think no one helped him get through that and showed the young guy, imagine us all at 10 years old. Someone needs to sort of show us the way, and like, hey, it's okay to cry, and it's okay to be sad, and this was horrible, and we're going to get you through it, and you're going to have dark days, and we're going to help you. But he was not an emotional guy. He was a very nice man, but he would be much more comfortable talking about you than he would himself, much more comfortable talking about minute kind of details, just the weather, things that are in the news, sports statistics, that kind of stuff. Getting really deep wasn't something he would do. And it really wasn't until, like I said, he was on his deathbed that he gave me that box. He went and got that. He called me into his room, and he was on oxygen and whatnot. And he went in there and said, "This is for you because I know you'll take care of it." And he gave me a bunch of material. One of the things he gave me was this little like leather bound book, and it's not unlike the leather or the sort of notebooks I still carry in my pocket today when I'm out on patrol. You write down names and dates of birth, and you have suspects pictures that you're looking for. And my grandfather, this is his book, and he has the same thing, old pictures, dates of birth of people and all this stuff. And the only thing that's different about this one is that it's got a bullet hole in it. It's got a little
Wow.
bullet hole in it, and it just reminds me that some things change, some things never change. Things are different. Police work, we have tasers and all this technology now, but some things are completely the same. He was out there looking for crooks, had a little notebook of people he was looking for. That's the same thing cops are doing every day. And the other thing's the same, is that if something were to happen to, if there's any officers listening, if something were to happen to you, it would be devastating for people. And so in my little world, I want to help train cops to be super safe about everything they're doing, and hopefully try to avoid this, even though we know it's going to happen again. We know, unfortunately,
Yeah.
very dangerous job. This stuff's going to happen again, but But yeah, circling back to my dad, I don't think he emotionally developed after that. And that's a real sad thing. Yeah, that was tough realizing that.
So that takes me to my next question for you, Scott, is with your training, it sounds like there's a lot of training around the combat piece to avoid things like what happened to your grandfather, not make these mistakes. But we can see, I've also learned from Jared as well. I think the suicide rate for cops is one of the highest rates as far as a profession. And there's a lot of emotional turmoil that goes on in this career that is intangible. We can't see it, right? And a lot of cops are trained, and aside from cops, I think just our society is being a man, right? Hey, don't cry, sit up straight, be tough, all the time, to where we don't get to process these are emotions. So in your training, can you tell us a little bit about the emotional and mental piece for that you bring forth?
Yeah, I think it's being real with people. Like when I'm teaching a class, I use words like, "Man, that was scary," or "God, that was crazy," or "Ooh, can you imagine that?" Just being human about things. I don't talk in, okay, we're going to go to this corner now and we're going to do, the SWATology sort of talk and trying to be a tough guy and like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and kick this guy's ass. It's like, hey, man, let's try to avoid any fight we can. And if you, sometimes I'll mention things like that, or like, hey, we don't want to get close to this guy. The minute we close distance with an adversary, we've put ourselves in a harder position than never being close to the guy.
Yeah.
In other words, if the guy's going to shoot us, there's a few things that have to happen before that occurs. We have to be within effective range of his weapon. He has to see us. He has to be able to shoot us accurately. So let's do, if we can, try to avoid those things. And I think the emotional part of it is being realistic. Let's be real. Sometimes you hear cops talking, testifying in court, some of the videos you see and whatnot, and they're talking like robots.
Yeah, for sure.
They're talking in legalese and whatnot. And I'm here to tell you, I've been in plenty of fights, and I'm 6 feet tall and over 200 pounds, and that's come in handy. But I've been in dealt with other people where I'm looking at this guy going, dear God, I hope he doesn't resist, because this is not going to go well for me.
Yeah.
And it's just such a challenging thing. I think being a police officer back in the day or now, we're really asking you to do things that are just so challenging, so impossible to do, right? Be friendly, be tough, don't be too tough, de-escalate. What are you waiting for? Get in there. We give these mixed sort of messages. You can win any fight because you're the world's problem solvers. Hey man, you can't win any fight. That guy's huge. You should get away from that guy and call for backup. It's like almost we give people these mixed messages. And so the young guy that comes to the police academy is kind of scratching his head going, I'm not sure what am I supposed to do exactly?
Right.
So I think, anything we can do to be real, to be emotionally intelligent, to be put on training that is not bullshit, right? Let's just say it accurately. And coming from Jared's world, and Ali, as you as well, being a fighter, and what is real training and what's not. I'm sure you guys watch the YouTube videos of those guys that are like martial artists, and they're like using their secret hidden power, and then like the guy flies back, and you guys watch it and you're like, bullshit. Joe Rogan does some pretty interesting stuff with those videos, and that's not too far from the truth on some of the police training we go to, right? It's like, okay, if he comes at you, you're going to do this 15 point, grab his finger here and then get behind him. And then and you're like in the academy, we learned how to take people down from behind, with all these secret moves and stuff. And in 20 years of being a police officer, I don't think I've ever been able to sneak up, behind someone and grab him real quick before you even notice what was going on, It's just like bullshit. Fights start like this, and then the guy grabs your shirt and you grab him, and then it goes to the ground, and
they're messy, right? They're messy. They're unpredictable. So I want to know. I'm still fascinated on this story. What did your dad do for a living, Scott?
My dad was an electrical engineer. My dad got his degree in electrical engineering, and I grew up in Silicon Valley. And before Silicon Valley was, computer world, tech world, everyone's got an app world, it was the defense industry. This is a
Yeah.
major defense industry. Lockheed, Boeing, Westinghouse. This is where all the satellites and the missiles and stuff like that were made. And so when I was growing up, everyone's dad worked in some defense contracting industry. My dad worked at Lockheed. He worked on the Agena satellite, which spied on the Russians.
Yeah.
And he would come home and we'd ask Dad, "What'd you do today at work?" And he'd say, "I can't tell you." And we'd be like, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool." But then, my dad tried to put us all through private school. And when I was in seventh, eighth grade, we needed more money because there wasn't enough money to put all these 4 kids through school. And he would never ask for a raise because he used to say, if they want to give you a raise, they'll give you one. Well, much to my mother's chagrin, she's like, "No, that's not how it works. You have to ask for one." He's like, "No, they'll award you one if you're worth it." Well, they didn't. So we needed more money. And you know what he went and did? He got a job at night stocking the shelves at Toys R Us. Electrical engineer during the day, working on like top secret
Wow.
stuff. At night, went and worked at Toys R Us stocking shelves. When the man slept, I don't believe he did. And he complained about it never. Not once. He said a man does what a man needs to do, and we need more money for you kids to go to school, and so that's what I'll do. No pride, no ego, just hard work, tenacity, doggedness. But he was an engineer, so emotionally stunted from being young, from what happened with his dad, and then spoke like the way engineers do. Like, when I was little and said, "Hey, Dad, how do you spell this?" Or "Can you help me with that?" He'd go launch into a dissertation about how we should use the dictionary.
Right.
You're like, never mind, I'll just get it wrong.
What about your grandma? Was she in the picture or?
Yeah, he never spoke about her. Never spoke about her. Just said she was a lovely woman, and that was the only thing we ever heard. I never met her.
You didn't meet her,
She
okay.
passed away, before I was alive. But I don't think he was super close to Mom as well. And I can't imagine what she went through losing,
Right.
her husband, and then trying to be mom and dad for my dad and his sister. But yeah, never said much about her.
And then what was his reaction when you said, "Dad, I want to be a policeman"?
Yeah, I remember that conversation. I sat on the couch with him. I said, "I have something to ask you." And there's 2 questions I have for you. The first one is, when I'm thinking about being a police officer, do you, I realize your dad was a policeman and he was killed in the line of duty. So would that be okay? And the second question I had is, I know you're a religious guy, and my dad was, religious. And I said, do you have any qualms about me potentially having to kill someone? Because I'm smart enough to know that that's a possibility. And he said, "Well, no, I think you should do whatever you want to do as far as being a police officer. Again, no emotional, not connected. Just, well, if that's what you want to do, son, then it's great. Yeah, that's what you should do." And as far as the killing thing, he said, "Well, the Bible says we shouldn't kill people, but it also says that you shouldn't let people kill you. And God put police officers on the earth to protect us. So if you need to protect someone else and by shooting them, then the Bible has no issue with that." And so I was like, okay, and then became a cop. But yeah, I can't, I would imagine, right, that if your dad is killed, you probably don't want your son doing that job. And that's why we need to be so emotionally connected to kind of what's going on in our little souls inside. If you're feeling some way, you got to get some help with that, and you got to work through it. And it's okay to be honest and be like, "I'm really scared for you, son. I don't want you to do this. I just want,
Yeah.
please stay home." And, but yeah.
Did he? I'm sorry, Ollie. Go ahead, buddy.
I was just curious because I realized that I don't even know the extent of how police officers are trained. Is it a framework that's given state by state, county by county? Is there kind of a piece of training that's national? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, every cop goes to a police academy, and every state has a different standard. So I think like your average police academy is somewhere around 6 months, give or take. It's somewhere around there. It's a full-time thing, and every state has something, along those lines. Colorado is something similar to California. And so each state has their own thing. And then there are police academies sort of spread out across the state, whatever state you're talking about. Some large agencies have their own. And then if it's a bunch of smaller agencies around, it might just be like a county type of thing where, folks are all kind of coming in there. But it's usually about 6 months. You go away to police academy. And then after that, you come out and you are assigned to a senior police officer called a field training officer. You drive around for a few months with a field training officer or several different field training officers, and they show you how to apply the academic knowledge you got in the academy. And then you're on probation. Then you're on probation, where you can be fired for no cause if you just kind of screw things up. So it's a lot of training. And, the question always comes up, do cops need more training? Do they need more training? My answer would be no, they don't need more. They need better training.
Yeah.
We have so watered down. I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but we've so watered down what a police officer does to make you the generalist of everything, the jack of all trades of everything. You are a mental health counselor. You're an EMT now. You are you're half army dude. You're gonna like go in and get the Las Vegas shooter who's shooting the place up. He's got explosives. Yeah, you deal with that too. You're gonna deal with a lost kid. You're gonna be a fraud investigator. You're gonna learn these computer systems. It's you're a human trafficking expert now. That's the latest one. The average cop is just like so inundated with information that it's kind of hard to be really, really good at any one of those things, which is why you see the use of force videos you see. It's like you're dealing with a cop who the last time this person actually fought someone could have been a long time ago and is not particularly skilled at fighting, right?
And quite honestly, a lot of them don't enjoy it.
Don't enjoy it, yeah.
Right. You'd be amazed how many cops come into police work and don't enjoy the physical aspect of it.
And maybe don't enjoy it because they're not good at it. Right. It's kind of scary, right? You want me to go deal with this guy. And oh, by the way, there's a lot of rules that come into play. I mean, it'd be kind of great if every time somebody fought us, if we could just have no rules. Can I just punch someone in the face, knee them in the nuts and then try to get them on the ground? I mean, that would make it a lot easier. But we have a lot of rules and laws, and there's the Constitution and all this stuff.
Not only do we have them,
mm-hmm.
people know the rules we have to play by. And I use we as the police officers. And here's the better part. They don't have to play by them. Amen. So Ali, it'd be like, the analogy I'd give you is be like you accepting an MMA fight, and you have to be on weight. So we're going to say 170 pounds on this date at this time. And you're going to have gloves, and you can't do these 6 things. No knee into the groin, no elbows to the back of the head, no shots to the kidneys. And you're going to have an opponent, but none of that applies to him. And you don't know his skill. Like, he's going to know your rules.
Yeah.
You're going to go in there, and you don't know anything about him, but you got to fight him.
Oh, and the opponent might have a gun.
He might.
We forgot to mention that one. He also might have a gun in his pocket. So be careful of that getting shot thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll pass on that one.
Yeah, it's kind of the use of force thing, or how cops are trained is if I was king, I would say let's just make cops really good at these 10 things, because it's kind of hard to be good at everything. And let's have some specialists. So if there's a dude with a gun inside a house, let's call it the SWAT team. Let's just have those guys ready to go. If there's this kind of call, let's call out that team. But your average patrol officer, let's just kind of keep it basic, because I want them to be really good at the fundamentals, really, really good at the basic stuff that we're going to go to. But every year it's like, okay, now you take this class and take this class and take this class. And these average officers are so inundated because we're trying to make them the world's problem solvers, right? The mental health in crisis is the one. I would say 50% of the calls we go on are for people with that are mentally ill and in crisis, right? 50%, because medicine can't fix this problem, right? Modern medicine can't figure out how to fix this problem. People's own families can't fix this problem. And so when the guy gets out of control, they call the cops, and 2 cops show up and they're like, what should we do? What can we do? What's in our power to do?
Yeah.
What are we really trained to do? I mean, we'll put cops through like a week, not in my training, but in general, cops go through a week-long course called crisis intervention. It's great. It's about recognizing symptomology of different diseases like paranoid schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder. It's great. And then they go out in the street and they're supposed to do something with that info. But if you read a lot of the forced science stuff, they interviewed a psychologist, or a psychiatrist of some kind, and he said, "Wow, you guys think you can go see somebody one time who's in crisis, and after 40 hours of training, make some sort of differential diagnosis or know what to do with it? It takes me months of seeing someone over and
Yeah.
over again to start to really know what to do, and none of that is when they're in crisis. Certainly not in the street." So I think back to our discussion of realistic training, there's some fallacies that we're sort of selling cops on. Like, you're going to be good at this. You go to this defensive tactics course, you twice a year, you do some twisty, you learn how to handcuff, you fight with no motivated opponent, and then you're certified. You're good to go back out into the street where you might have
Yeah.
to really fight somebody. And some people don't like it, like Jared mentioned, but then there's maybe even a worse thing. It's the guys that go, I'm awesome at this, totally untested, unproven. Don't worry, I'm really good at this. And so they're walking around like they're a tough guy. It's like eventually someone's going to punch your card. Someone's going to be like, I'm not buying it, and I'm going to take you on, and it's going to be ugly.
Yeah. I want to know, did your dad ever ask about your police days? Was he interested at all in that part of your life, or did he compartmentalize it kind of like the grandpa stuff?
No, he would ask a lot about it, but it was always the minutia, the trivial details, the type of schedule I worked, the type of the assignment that I was working. He'd be interested, like, oh, you're working on a terrorism task force. Now, where is your office? Where is the office located? And then, oh, you're a supervisor now. When I was a sergeant, now what do you carry? I'd show him a picture. Well, what do you carry in that vehicle? What kind of equipment is in that? Satisfy my curiosity on that. He wanted to talk about the peripheral details. It was never like, uh, have you ever been close to something that like happened to my dad happening to you?
Yeah.
Have you ever been scared?
Do you
Have
think
you
he
ever?
wanted to? Do you think it was underlying he just couldn't go there? It was better just not knowing?
I don't know. I'd love to be able to answer that, but it's
Yeah.
like I couldn't. It was really hard to crack that code of my dad and sort of how he was developed. So I don't know. I know my mother does not want to know, and she's
She
still with us.
doesn't.
And she's like, I just try to pretend that you don't do these things. And and now she's on some app called Nextdoor.
Oh
That
yeah.
apparently it's a bunch of neighbors, and anytime something happens, well, the cops are here, the cops are there, this happened, that happened. A bike got stolen over here, a cat ran up a tree over here, and then now she asked me about it. Were you on that call? What?
Yeah. That's
What? I
hilarious.
don't think you're talking about the same city I work in.
So I started my career in a small town in Montana after I got out of the
Mm.
Air Force, and it was the town I was actually born in, but I had never lived there. So it was interesting to go back at that stage of my life because I didn't have a lot of connections to people, but my family did. Like my family knew people, but not me individually. And I distinctly remember when I was brand new and I got in this foot chase with this guy and end up tackling him and getting him arrested. I could just feel somebody staring at me. And this is a town of like 38,000 people, Butte, Montana, great Irish mining town. And everybody loved the scanners, right? Because there wasn't a lot going on, so they'd listen to hear what the cops were doing and stuff. And so I tackle this guy, and I'm getting him cuffed, and I could feel just somebody looking at me. So I look over, and there's my grandpa. He had heard the call on the scanner, so he heard me going to it, so he drove down the street and parked, and he just stood across the street just staring at us. And
Wow.
literally, like every barbecue we'd have, every dinner we'd have, my grandpa would be like, hey, tell me about this call here. I heard you go on that thing. And yeah, it's just honestly for me, I think it was a good way of staying connected, right? Because I wouldn't tell them all the details that they shouldn't know or that weren't good. The fact that we were able to process it and let them in a little bit into my world and let a little bit of my world out, I think is a thing a lot of times we miss in law enforcement, right? We get so guarded, we keep so much in that it's detrimental to us, not only in our training, but in our lives.
Well, I guess I could ask you that question, Jared. If one of your children wanted to become a police officer, how would that hit your ears?
Honestly, my youngest daughter would be awesome at it. And shockingly, and I actually hit Scott up for this because she saw my sweatshirt. She's like, where do I get one of those?
Yeah.
So I was like, Scott, I got to buy one for Taya because her nickname is Savage.
Yeah.
She would be a fantastic police officer because she's no bullshit, right to the point. She's like, she would be perfect.
Good.
You know, I don't know, man. I want my kids to choose their own path, but I will tell you, not only for police work, but I think in life in general, that every day you leave your home, you don't know if you're coming back. Obviously, for police, fire, military, we're sending you out to danger. So your likelihood of not coming back is higher than the average citizen. But Ollie, you don't know right after this podcast that you're not going to walk out and get hit by a bus. You don't know, right? And we take it for granted. So what I always tell all the young police recruits, anybody that I'm coaching, is when you leave your house, no matter what you're doing, the people closest to you better know they matter, and they better know you love them, right? Because I couldn't imagine a worse burden than going to work as a policeman, going to that call where my number comes up. It just happens sometimes. And Andrea's last memory of me was we were arguing about who didn't thaw the chicken in time. But how many of us live our lives? We leave, and we just think, we'll talk about that later. We'll deal with this later, but you don't know. Right. And I hope kind of steering this all back during this time of isolation, during this time of a pandemic, I hope we take time to reflect on what's truly important.
Amen. Being quarantined or being shelter in place, whatever we're doing, the wife and I we don't have children. So it's just, she and I, and we've sat in our house for, a month together, eating dinner together, doing everything together. And we've remarked several times, I'm really glad we get along so well. And she said something like, well, if there wasn't a shelter in place, what would we be doing that's so different? We would just be out in a restaurant, hanging out and having cocktails and enjoying our life together. And now we're just doing it in our living room, getting very good at making cocktails, by the way.
Oh, there you
go. And I think it's true. When you were talking, I reminded you all did an episode about legacy, sort of what legacy are we leaving? And, I had a different take when I was listening to that because I don't have children myself. I don't have a, sort of extended family that I think there's going to be this thing after I'm gone that they'll inherit. And so when I think of legacy, for me, I almost think of there's not going to be an after death legacy, right? I'm not overly concerned, and to be honest, I'm not concerned at all with what is said about me when I'm gone. In other words, at my funeral, I'm not going to be there. I won't be there to hear the great speech or whatever. I'm more concerned with today, what's happening right now, and in this time of uncertainty and all that stuff. Sometimes it's good to be like, hey, man, we don't know about tomorrow. Let's not put all these things off. What are we doing today? How are things going now? How's our relationship going right now? And man, I feel like paying someone a compliment right now because I don't want to tell Jared and Ollie later on that I'll tell them one day that I really like their podcast. I want to seem kind of aloof right now and seem like I'm too busy to listen to your guys' podcast. Yeah, bullshit. I listen to your guys' podcast. It's fucking awesome. You guys did a great job, and I want you to know that right now because I don't know if I'll be around tomorrow.
Right.
And so for me, the legacy, the talk of tomorrow, it's kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, man. I have a job that offers me plenty of chances to die all the time. And then, like you mentioned, man, we can all get hit by a bus or something like that. So sometimes it's good to be like, yeah, man, screw tomorrow. Let's do it now.
I love that, man. Because if you take care of the present moment, then your legacy will take care of itself.
Yeah,
exactly. I was going to just say that, right? Because you're taking care of people now, and whether you have kids or not, that's not who carries your legacy. Every student you come in contact with, every person you interact with that you treat a certain way that continues to say your name is your legacy, right? And that remembers how you treated them. So, Scott, as we get ready to wrap up here, do you have a couple short ideas, steps that you would share with our community to help them maybe find their purpose and step more into this purpose?
Yes, I would say stop searching for meaning that doesn't mean anything to you. And by that, I mean, there's a lot of folks that will create some kind of maybe a new app or new technology, and they're trying to assign this like deep meaning to it because we're all searching for doing meaningful work. Um, if it's not meaningful to you and it's like meaningful to other people and that's not what interests you, don't do it. Do what really matters to you. And if you kind of have trouble figuring out what that is, it's like, what do you think about a lot? What do you think of? What seems to consume your thoughts? What do people ask you about a lot? What are the times when you're telling a story that people kind of key into it and they're like, locked into it because you're saying meaningful stuff,
Right.
And if it matters to you and maybe the little circle you're around, the 5, 10, 20 people at your job don't think it's cool, that's not relevant. You know what? This is a big world. And if you think it's cool and you think it's meaningful and you want to do something, there's a good chance that there are thousands, literally thousands of people that feel the exact same way you do. And um, go for it. Like do your thing. And are people going to hate on you? Are people going to, oh, that's stupid, that's dumb, that's never going to work? That's true, and it's also irrelevant. And you will, the truer you are to yourself, like, when you're asking about my grandfather, you can probably see, man, this isn't bullshit. This guy really is inspired and feels those things. And it's painful to talk about that. And that's what inspired me. That's what
Right.
keeps me going. That's the thing. And maybe uh, do what you want to do today, you know, and if you are thinking about starting a business and you want like a little business tip, here's the tip. Do the hard stuff first. The making a logo and making t-shirts and all that stuff, that's the fun stuff, man. That's fun, right? It's fun to make a logo and it's fun to, oh, I'm going to make a shark with a lightning bolt and all that shit. It's like do the hard stuff, the business plan, the finances, all that kind of challenging stuff. Do that first. Get you on a nice solid footing, solid. Do the research. Get you all the books, read the books about the business and the advertising and the marketing and the accounting and all the boring stuff. Do that first, right? Because all the cool, fun stuff, being on podcasts, making logos, all that kind of cool stuff will come, but you got to do all the hard stuff first. But it's okay. Let it just find your inspiration, then be like, I've got that fire in my belly now. Now it makes everything nice and clear. I'm going to go do this, 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 and this and that. So those would be kind of my takeaways, I think, for people in general.
Yeah, I love it. Where can people follow you, Scott? Where can our community stay in touch with you and keep up to all things Savage related?
Well, if you like those sweatshirts, which has been a big part of our conversation today, we give them away on Instagram. So you can go on Instagram, Savage Training Group, and we just do like little giveaways, and you can win those. If you want to talk to me specifically, I'm on LinkedIn. That's kind of where I hang out. I don't hang out on Facebook or freaking Twitter or Tinder or whatever everyone else is on. I'm chilling on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to help you with whatever you message me. I'm on it all the time. And then if you're a cop and you're interested in like what we think is the best training out there, and I think I can prove it, go to savagetraininggroup.com. As soon as this death zombie coronavirus thing is over, we'll be back in the action and back doing in-person training in California and beyond. We'd love to have you in the class. So
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, Scott, and for sharing that story and your purpose with our community. And I can't wait to see how it blesses everybody.
Oh, thank you guys.
Thanks a lot, Scott. I'll definitely be on Instagram trying to win one of those sweatshirts.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Take care, Scott.
Thank you.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.